at rocksdiscountvitamins.com. Thanking God and South Texas for all the support.
94.1 San Antonio's Sports Center.
Dak Prescott was spotted in a walking boot, but according to Clarence Hill of the Fort Worth Star-Telegram, telling us earlier on the Blitz, it is just preventative maintenance for him. The San Antonio Spurs start Summer League play tomorrow. Fourth overall pick Stephon Castle and the crew get underway in the California Classic out in Sacramento as they open things up against the Hornets at 5:30 tomorrow afternoon on NBA TV.
This is Extra Innings with Pleasure.
Truth is, I am Iron Man.
Rock and roll! The Texans win it!
You've been called the Da Vinci of our time. What do you say to that?
Absolutely ridiculous. I don't think.
That goal is history. A walk-off home run.
And it's going to be legendary.
James Pledger wraps your day with insight, opinion, plenty of sarcasm, and of course, your calls. He'll even pour a beer out the door for his favorite story of the day. This is Extra Innings with Pledger. Now, here's Pledge.
Oh, I hope everybody had a happy 4th of July celebrating our independence from the British colonies. Appreciate y'all for joining me here on Extra Innings with Pleasure on this Friday afternoon. 94.1 FM, sasportstar.com, however you may be listening, whether that's on the radio, via our AA Best Bail Bonds audio player at sasportstar.com, or if you happen to be listening via our YouTube channel at SA Sports Star, just search that on YouTube. Go ahead, like, subscribe. You can comment along with the show as well. Appreciate it. Bye for joining me. Britton Stacy on our YouTube channel says he does pledge to get hammered this weekend. Well, congratulations, sir. I will pledge with you. And hopefully tomorrow by the pool, I will be schnockered. Welcome into Extra Innings with Pleasure. I appreciate everybody for joining me. As I was in the gym yesterday, finished things up, I got into an interesting conversation and a back and forth regarding Lauri Markkanen, the Spurs, their picks, trades, what's on the table, what's off the table. And it turned into a thing, not just with Spurs Twitter, but just people in general. They have their own perceptions of value on things. And I kind of wonder what the perception of the Spurs value on certain things is, because we all know I am and have been a big fan of Lauri Markkanen, just in how I think he fits with the Spurs. Back when it was DeMar DeRozan, I thought this team needed more floor spacing. To this day, I still think it needs more floor spacing. When you have a 7-footer that is athletic as all get out, can play in the pick and roll game with Wemby or Chris Paul or whoever it may be, and just be a matchup nightmare from the perimeter in, shooting 40% from three, and as an all-star with a very deep tool bag. I think he's an underrated player. I think pairing him with a player like a Victor Wembanyama who shares a similar game would be a nightmare for defenses to guard. So I have a higher perception of a value on Lauri Markkanen than others. But the most value, if not Devin Vassell, seems to be with those Atlanta, especially the Atlanta 2025 pick. And the more I think about it, because I've also been, that's the one thing I'm trying to keep out of the trade package, if I can, if at all possible. The perceived value of it, if that's the thing that can push it over the top, I am more and more okay with including that 2025 pick. For a multitude of reasons. One, there is an unknown factor. Yes, it is a deep draft class. Yes, there's a perception of a lot of talent coming in with Ace Bailey and Cooper Flagg and everyone else in the top 4 or 5 picks. That's awesome, right? Or is it? my perception of Atlanta's pick isn't that this is because I think this is a lazy narrative to think Atlanta is tanking. What are they tanking for? They don't have their own picks. It does them literally no good as a team to tank because of San Antonio owning their pick swap, and their pick over the next 3 years. There's not a single reason that San Antonio or Atlanta should be tanking. And now with the news that they are going to hold on to Trae Young because his value isn't there on the market from teams like the Spurs and the Lakers, how bad can this Atlanta team be? Remember, this was a 10 seed. They made the play-in tournament and got knocked out this past year. Yes, they lost DeJounte Murray, but DeJounte Murray and Trae Young are a little bit of oil and water in terms of, I always talk about fit with the team. Spurs need floor spacers. I think Lauri Markkanen would be a good fit for this team. When DeMar DeRozan was here, and even with Goldfinger asking on the YouTube chat, what are the chances for DeRozan? I don't want DeRozan. Not on this team as currently constructed because there's no floor spacing. Why would I want to bring in less floor spacing on this team? Yes, he is a good player. Yes, he is a name, but fit is everything. And the Celtics did a really good job of building a team with very few holes in it. You've got floor spacing. You've got guys that can get to the basket. You've got your lockdown defenders. You've got everything that you need. You've got your unicorn and Kristaps Porzingis that can do a multitude of things. Fit is everything. And if you put too many of the similar things on the court together all at once, it becomes a very difficult thing to navigate past if you're a team. Like roster construction, you talk about the Phoenix Suns. Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, Bradley Beal, guys that are used to playing with the ball on their hand. You got 3 guys that need the ball in their hand to score. Kevin Durant is at least talented enough to play off the ball. He doesn't need the ball to affect the game. He can play without the ball in his hand in a catch and shoot sense. But it just didn't work in Phoenix because poor fit. You got to find players that fit together that make the pieces a whole. And while I think Markkanen fits, I don't think Murray and Trae Young fit very well because both players are on the ball players. Needs the ball in their hands to, like Chris Paul in Golden State, needs the ball in his hands. Can't technically play with Steph Curry very well because you want the ball in his hands. So I think the subtraction of DeJounte Murray and the addition of a Dyson Daniels, a 3-and-D type of player, makes Atlanta better. And this was a 10 seed. They were in the play-in. They just happened to win the lottery with the lowest chances. They should have been picking 14. They instead picked 1. So this year, if this team is better, Chicago is getting worse. Chicago is tanking, it looks like. So they have every reason to tear it down. They're going to sign and trade, it looks like, DeMar to Sacramento, according to Woj, or at least that deal's getting close. They're trying to attach a first-round pick to a Zach LaVine to unload his contract. They're trying to rip it down. So they're already worse, and they were the 9th seed. So just by addition and subtraction, Atlanta's already gotten better in the Eastern Conference alone. Now, I ask you, how many teams is Atlanta better than the way they're currently constructed? Well, another team that is obviously going full tank is the Brooklyn Nets. Now, especially since they have their own picks back. That team is obviously worse than Atlanta. The Raptors are still worse than Atlanta. The Hornets are still worse than Atlanta. The Wizards are still worse than Atlanta. And the Pistons are still worse than Atlanta, and that is just in the Eastern Conference. If you go over to the West, the Blazers are worse than Atlanta. The Jazz, especially if they move Markkanen, will be worse than Atlanta. The Clippers feel like they're going to regress significantly in the Western Conference while Memphis ascends. They may take that spot down near the bottom, especially losing Paul George, possibly losing Westbrook. You may also be losing James Harden. So there's a lot going on with the Clippers that could make them very bad this year. And the Spurs, especially if they don't do anything else right now, how much better of the 22 wins can they be? 30, 32, 10 wins better than the previous season? Still not better than what Atlanta was last year, especially since they play mainly against a weaker Eastern Conference. So if that pick falls between 8 and 14, how valuable is it truly? And should it be a deal breaker in bringing in a player that can obviously help to bring this team up into the next echelon? I think a team with Markkanen, I think a team with Chris Paul and Wemby, and if you can hold on to a Devin Vassell, that is a team that compete in the top 6 in the Western Conference. I am not opposed to getting rid of 2025 Atlanta's pick, because I don't think Atlanta's pick is going to be as good as everybody else thinks it's going to be. Mainly because the perception that they are going to tank makes no sense. You tank to get a better draft pick. Well, they don't own their own draft pick. Why would they be tanking for someone else? It doesn't matter. Goldfinger123 on our YouTube chats asking how Buddy Hield fits with the Warriors. I think Buddy Hield's going to be a great fit with the Warriors. Spot up shooter, just more shooting. He's going to be a cheaper version of what Klay Thompson has been. That's his role there. So I look at how you build this team. Mark's a bona fide star. And with Trae Young staying put, I think Atlanta's still going to be very good. And if you don't do anything, you are left with 7 draft picks next year. In the NBA, that is half of your roster. If all their picks convey, they could end up next year with 3 first-round picks, or 4 first-round picks potentially, and 3 second-round picks potentially. That's 7. That is half of an NBA roster. You don't have enough roster spots to bring all of these people in. You've got to start unloading some of these assets. Now, if the price is deemed too much, like they wanted 5 picks and Devin Vassell and a couple of pick swaps, I get not doing it. But if it is the perceived 97.5 the game, TJ on Jones covers the NBA for The Athletic, says Golden State has an offer on the table and it's substantial for Lauri Markkanen. It is heavily pick-based, which the Spurs should be able to match and beat any heavy pick-based. They said it would have picks, play a protected first-rounder. Three picks, one of them's protected. If the Spurs can't match an offer like that, then they truly are going to build this thing out entirely through the draft. Because that should not be a tournament or a deterrent to adding a Lauri Markkanen to this team, which could elevate this team's floor significantly. This is Extra Innings with Pleasure. What say you? What are your thoughts on the Atlanta 2025 pick? Should it have as much weight as it's perceived to have had as we come into a generational type draft that is going to be very, very top heavy? 656 ESPN 210-656-3776 if you want to be a part of the conversation. I'd love to have you on. I'd love to talk about this. I'd love to know why you think Atlanta is A, tanking, or B, 2025's Atlanta pick is untouchable, because I'm hearing that from a lot of people. Paul A says he can see them bringing back DeMar DeRozan. If this team were constructed differently, I would agree with you. I like DeMar DeRozan. I do not like him with this team because it already does not have enough floor spacing. He just brings even less of that. It clogs up the middle. It clogs up driving lanes. It is not the best way to construct a roster. At that point, if you're bringing back DeRozan, you're just bringing back a name to bring back a name, not basketball schematic fit. This is Extra Innings with Pleasure right here on San Antonio Sports Star. What say you? 210-656-ESPN, 656-3776. If you want to be a part of the conversation, we'll get into that. Plus, Dak in a boot. What's it mean? And could it be a precursor to training camp here in a few weeks? We'll discuss.
I spray and scrub, but the soap scum in my bathtub is still there.
I spray and scrub, but the burnt sauce on my stovetop sticks around.
Sprays can leave grime behind. The new Mr. Clean Ultra Foamy Magic Eraser combines the scrubbing power of an eraser with the cleaning power of Dawn to melt away tough messes on contact.
Just wet, squeeze, and erase.
Stop spraying, start erasing, and clean with more magic than ever with new Ultra Foamy Magic Eraser.
Mr. Clean, Mr. Clean. With a true Vegas feel, the Big Blind is the premier poker room in San Antonio, featuring an upscale environment catering to players from all abilities. From high-octane tournaments or lively cash games, the Big Blind has a game for everyone, including blackjack tournaments. From the owners of the Roo Pub and the Angry Elephant, the Big Blind is locally owned and operated, offering daily cash games to daily, weekly, and monthly tournaments. Learn more online at thebigblindsa.com. The Big Blind at 281 and Redland Road.
Home ownership. At Progressive, we know it's part of the American dream. It's the land of the free and the home of student drivers ready to back into your new fence at any given time. It's firing up a round of burgers and dogs on your rusty grill with a faulty gas line that engulfs your tool shed in flames. It's also around-the-clock protection when you bundle your home and auto with Progressive, which can help keep the American dream of home ownership alive and kicking. Get a quote at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company, affiliates, and other insurers. Not available in all states.
No one knows the importance of a great assist more than Lowe's and Leo Messi. That's why we've teamed up to give MVP's Pro Rewards members 10 times the points when Messi makes an assist during CONMEBOL Copa America USA 2024. Activate this offer starting June 20th, so when Messi assists, you score. Shop the day after an assist to earn those extra points. Not an MVP's Pro Rewards member? Join today. Visit Lowe's.com/Messi for more details.
Buyers Barricades is proud to provide traffic control, rental, and sales for work zones and events in the San Antonio area and beyond. Buyers Barricades, the Texas authority in barricade rental. Learn more online at buyersbarricades.com. That's buyersbarricades.com.
GiveMeTheVin.com is America's best car buyer, paying top dollar for your car, truck, sports car, exotic. What are you waiting for? We want to buy your car right now. Find out why thousands of satisfied customers across the United States put more money in their pocket by going to GiveMeTheVin.com. I told my buyers, let's get them bought. Right now is the time to go.
Sell us your car. GiveMeTheVin.com. So easy you can do it in your underwear.
Saving for retirement was tough enough for us.
Yes. Can be challenged.
I understand. That's why at Fisher Investments, we take a disciplined approach with your investments.
Tell us more about that.
We take an active approach to money management, positioning your portfolio for opportunities we see ahead.
So all your clients get the same portfolio?
No, we tailor your portfolio to your individual goals and needs.
What about communication? We don't like being left in the dark.
We check in regularly to keep you informed on the markets and your portfolio.
Which means you'll help us stay on track.
Yes, our goal is your comfortable retirement. And as a fiduciary, we always put your interests first, because we do better when you do better. At Fisher Investments, we're clearly different. Learn more at FisherInvestments.com.
Investing in securities involves the risk of loss.
It's Extra Innings with Pleasure on 94.1 San Antonio's Sports Star.
Welcome back into Extra Innings with Pleasure right here on San Antonio Sports Star. Rangers baseball coming up next. Your phone calls, 210-656-ESPN, 656-3776, plus your comments. A lot of people asking about DeMar DeRozan, some asking about Brandon Ingram. Brandon Ingram is another player. If you don't get a marketing, if it ends up being too expensive, it's not a guy I wouldn't mind having. Long wing, play the three, shoots 36% from three, does give you a little bit of floor spacing ability. I like Brandon Ingram. I would prefer a Lauri Markkanen being that stretch four, another big body. The front court would just be insane. And then you think about the packages, especially with Castle, if he were to take over at the point guard, the amount of length with him and Devin and Markkanen and Wemby, it would be just an insane defense. And it's not to say that, especially with the picks you have, because like I said, 4 firsts next year, 3 seconds next year, 7 picks, that is half of your roster. You can't feasibly use all of these picks, and you've got more coming in the future. If you wanted to do a move for Markkanen and Brandon Ingram, I think you can get away with doing both of those moves to really elevate this team. Look, Victor Wembanyama proved last year that he is ready to win immediately in the NBA. He got to the end of last year and he was ready to go. Now, what are the Spurs going to do to build around a guy who has proven that he is ready to start winning by his play alone? And it was basically his play alone. You've got to start to build out around this guy to really give this team a chance to compete, because the Western Conference is brutal. The West is insanely good, and you've got at least one team coming back to earth, in my opinion, in the Los Angeles Clippers, right? So what's the road that you have to go through? Well, this past season, the road you have to go through in the Western Conference would have been just to make the postseason, by the way. So you've got teams that are making moves to try and stay in that upper or in that lower threshold, with the Lakers, the Warriors, Pelicans. They're trying to stay in the mix in that playoff team. You got teams like the Rockets who are trying to burst into that bottom tier of the playoffs and play in tournament. Spurs obviously would love to make that list. Grizzlies were a 1 seed a few years ago. They're getting John Morant back. They're going to have Jaren Jackson Jr. It's got Marcus Smart. The Grizzlies are a team that can very well go from 13th to like 6th, 7th, 5th this upcoming season, just by adding a couple of pieces that they didn't have for a couple of years due to whether it was gun charges or off the court issues or injuries, as it boiled down to this past season. Mavericks just added Klay Thompson. I think it is a perfect piece for the Mavericks, solidifying where they should be, 4 or 5 in the West. The Timberwolves, 3 seed. Nuggets, 2 seed. Thunder, 1 seed. Not a lot of those teams are coming back to earth. Suns, have to wait and see if they're going to blow it up or not. The Lakers look like they are in their twilight. And the Kings are attempting to make a move to try and get better right now with a DeMar DeRozan sign-and trade, according to Woj, looking for a third team to help facilitate that. It's going to be very interesting to see how this all breaks out, if it breaks out for them. But I listened to Bill Simmons on his podcast earlier this week talking about Markkanen's fit with the Spurs. He throws DeMar DeRozan in there as well. I think Brandon Ingram will be a better fit than DeRozan, but apples and oranges, doesn't matter. Markkanen is the main thought process here when he talks about fit and schematics.
And then San Antonio would be the other one. because they could offer Zach Collins or Devontae Graham and a bunch of picks. They could end up potentially, if they really wanted to go nuts, try to get DeRozan too and end up with Wemby, Markkanen, Chris Paul, DeRozan, Castle, Devin Vassell, Sohan, Trey Jones, and Keldon Johnson. But, you could do a sign and trade with DeRozan. The Spurs could say, it. We have Wemby. There's no way we're going to be a bottom 5 team with Wemby anyway. We have a bunch of picks from other teams. Let's just try to be good. They have so many picks that they could probably put together the best package for marketing. I like the combo of him and Wembanyama. I don't know. I would think about it if I was the Spurs. As you know, I'm on the record. I don't like being in the middle. But if you have Wembanyama and the history of having like these transformative guys is it always happens much faster than you think. It happened with Luka, happened with LeBron. You're speeding up the timetable for when you're going to be relevant. And maybe it's time if they feel like they have all these excess picks, grab marketing now, you can pay them, maybe do a descending extension where it's the most money the first year and it starts coming down. You got to think about it. That's really it. I can't really think of another team that makes sense for him. So
it fits. There are so many things that he accentuates on the Spurs team. So if they get outbid and the price doesn't look very overwhelming, I would be very upset by it. This has been Extra Innings with Pleasure. Hope to see y'all next Monday. Enjoy Rangers baseball coming at you next.
Ladies and gentlemen, the weekend.
Guys, did you know your testosterone affects everything in your system, including how you feel and perform every day? Right now, Revive Men's Health San Antonio will check your testosterone for free. Knowing your T levels is the first step in understanding if you have low T. Your testosterone level